Here is the LSI MegaRAID 8344 ELP PCIX SAS and SATA RAID controller card. You can see that it's a PCIX 4 card, PCIX 4, so it'll fit in any PCIX 4 or longer slot, which is pretty nice. This thing is set up to directly drive up to 8 drives. Up to 8 SAS or SATA drives. On the front we have a connector to which 4 drives can be connected. On the back we have another connector to which another 4 drives can be connected. The back connector being the internal connector. And the front and back connectors, you might not have noticed, are different, so you need to be sure to get the right cable for whichever application you're using. This thing is an SAS drive, an SAS array controller, so its specs show that with SAS expanders you can drive up to 64 drives, but I'm not very familiar with having done that, so I won't talk about it too much. We've got configuration pins here and here. Notice that I have no jumper set. This is a bog standard default card. We've got the heat exchange there, which that thing gets very hot, so you're going to want some airflow through your server. You're going to definitely want some good airflow. That thing gets hot enough to almost burn you. You have a piezoelectric speaker there, which I can say, from having failed to drive while I was testing this stuff out, gets loud enough to wake up the dead. So if you've got a failed drive or an array configuration error or whatever, the card will let you know in this way and another way that I'll get to in just a moment. It makes a loud, piercing noise. It does get through walls. Over here we've got LED drivers. We've got 8 sets of pins to drive 8 activity LEDs here, and here we have 8 more sets of pins to drive 8 fault LEDs as well. So we can drive up to 16 LEDs, 8 for activity and 8 for fault. And that's the card. And then real quickly here, I'll go ahead and start the system booting, and I'm going to show you while I do that. This is the cable that I bought. This is it goes to the internal connector like so. And then that brings out 4 SATA connectors. And these SATA connectors will go directly into your SATA drive like so. Simple. Each one of those SATA connectors has a red cable going back to the array controller card, and then a standard Molex cable for power, and that'll power your SATA drive. Alright, so our firmware initializing status is up. It's at 0%. This thing usually takes about 45 seconds, and then you get to this screen where you need to press a Control H to get into the configuration, and you have to do it quickly. That Control H, you only have about 15 seconds to do it, so you do need to be paying attention. If we had multiple LSI MegaRAID cards within a system, this is where we would choose which one we were configuring. But since we don't, I'm going to go ahead and press Enter because there's only the one card. Okay, so the quickest setup. This system shows the 4 drives that are installed in there, all as unconfigured. I'm not sure you can read the text because of the poor quality of my equipment. But I have left this completely unconfigured so that this video would work out. We go to the configuration wizard. We choose New Configuration. We choose Next. Auto configuration with redundancy. Next. And that's going to go ahead and create for us one array as RAID 5 as 1.427 terabytes. So I'm going to accept that. I'm going to choose yes to save this. It brings up another confirmation dialog that tells us that we're going to lose all data, to which I agree. It very quickly goes through an initialization phase and presents us with the completed and optimal status RAID 5 array. If we want to understand the properties of that RAID 5 array, we can go here, select Properties, click Go. And we can see a few things about it. We can change the access of our drives. We could make this a read-only or not even allow anybody to get to this RAID array. We can make the array have read-ahead or read-adaptive or normal criteria. We can have a write-through or a write-back or a bad BBU mode. When you don't have a battery backup unit, which that's what BBU means, battery backup unit, it will automatically default back to the write-through mode, which means no cache. And even if you were to set it to write back, which means to use a cache, to write to the RAM and then write to the disk, it will change back to the write-through mode. We have this mode, which I'm not sure what it means, disable BGI, no and yes. And we have I/O, can be direct or cached. You could change that if you wish, but I'm not going to change anything right now. I'm just kind of walking through a few of the configuration settings. Here we see the size, 1.427,649 megabytes, which means approximately 1.43 terabytes. And the stripe size here is 64 kilobytes, and the RAID level is 5, and the state is optimal. Over here, if we wanted, we could choose a drive and remove it, or we could migrate from RAID 5 down to RAID 0 or RAID 1. I'm not going to choose to do any of those things, so I'm just going to click the Home button and go ahead and exit. And it's going to let us know that it would like us to reboot the system. So I'm going to go ahead and press the power reset button. And the system reboots. And once again, we'll come up to the firmware initialization stage, and this will take about 45 seconds to complete. All my videos will proceed always at real time, so you might want to go ahead and fast forward to the next spot where the screen changes in any way. Okay, we see that it has detected a drive, but the drive has no data on it, of course, so I'm going to let this thing time out. And you see it timed out very quickly, 10-15 seconds at the most, just to show you that you do have to be paying attention at that point. Since there's no data in the new RAID array, of course the system is complaining that there's no bootable system volume anywhere. And that ends this video. In the next video, I'm going to go ahead and install VMware ESXi version 3.5 on the server. So stay tuned for that.